Hi everyone, I'm Madeline Park, stylist and vintage fashion hound. I believe everything has a story, whether it be clothes or the people that wear them. For season 2 of Style Stories, I want to get out of the house, but find a place where I still felt at home, like Lucio's, the iconic Italian restaurant known for its colour and charm. My guests tip their hat to Lucio's by seasoning their stories with a taste of art, food and family, but always bringing to the table their unique sense of style. Today I'm chatting with fashion designer Gary Bigeni, known in the industry as much for his considerate hand on draping as he is for his flamboyant personal style. Whilst Gary's designs pay reverence to a woman's shape, they also embrace his love of art and sometimes even food, making him an ideal guest at Lucio's. Having designed chefs' uniforms, Gary is almost as popular in the food community as he is in the fashion world, and cites Melissa Leong of Masterchef fame as one of his nearest and dearest. Despite the colourful bravado, it's his grounded nature and hardworking ethos that makes him so likable and helps us come to understand the pure joy that comes with his bright and sometimes brazen style. Okay, Gary, thank you so much for joining me here today.
You're welcome.
We've never actually met before,
No.
even though we've both been around for a little while.
Yeah.
But I think your reputation in the fashion industry for being very bright and, like loving colourful, playful patterns precedes you.
Yeah.
And I've definitely noticed you across a room before. So I just want to start off by kind of getting into who you are and how you've come to have this great kind of sense of colour and print in your own style. Did you have a colourful upbringing and a playful household, or?
I guess I'm youngest of 4, raised by a single mum. I little bits and pieces. I guess I always was like creating my own vision, like with things like, how do you say, little bits and pieces. Like I always was exorbitant to colour, and I'm hearing impaired as well. So I was born hearing impaired, so I wear hearing aids, and like a lot of the time I wouldn't hear, but I could, like my eyes were my ears.
Right.
And, like to absorb things. So I was always attracted to like colour and shapes and recognised with that growing up. So I kind of feel like that's where it kind of all started for me, where, developing, a colour palette of like what I wanted to wear, and it was very, Yeah.
So you grew up in a family of 4.
Yeah.
And so what was the makeup? You were the baby?
I'm the baby, yeah.
Yeah, so lots of attention?
Mostly, I think, from my mum, being the youngest, but I had 2 older sisters and an older brother, and I was always very just fascinated with like clothing from a young age. Like, I like Barbie was probably my first client. I was always obsessed with wanting to get my hands on Barbies. And I, being the youngest, I never had one, but I kind of would, all the girls in our street, we would play like, Barbies, and I was trying to always work out a way how I would get a few from them to take home so I could play with them all the time. So we would play this game in the backyard where we're like, okay, I'm going to go hide these Barbies, and then we'll play hide and seek with them, and you'll have to find them. And I was throwing them over my shoulder and into my backyard.
Yeah.
So
it's
then,
your way of manipulating
them. And then I'd got like, that they would finish it and I would go home and, round up the Barbies and go inside and wait till everyone was asleep, and then be washing their hairs and making little handmade outfits for them.
Yeah.
But I would always go in my mum's wardrobe and cut up her dresses.
Oh, how did that go?
Not well. It took her a while to figure it out, because I would sit in the bottom of the wardrobe and just cut like a big circular circle out of her dresses in a hem, and then go and make all these little pieces for Barbie.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I felt it started for me in terms of
Just your love of fashion.
Yeah, love of fashion, and just always like creating things, like, making toys and making characters where I would, make little outfits to wear, or like all my toys had an outfit. So I guess it kind of started there for me.
It was always in there for you.
Always, yeah.
What about your mum and your sisters? Were they into fashion or?
No,
not
like
their
I
thing?
kind of always asked, who in our family had like a passion for design and stuff like that. And I had one auntie who was a really good crochet maker, but last year I went to I'm Maltese background.
Okay, yeah.
So my parents were born in Malta, and last year I went for the first time.
Yeah.
And I met one of my aunties who was like really into print and color, and I was like, oh my god, maybe it's from my dad's side of the family where they love the color and the print, and she just had like 10 different prints.
Did your arms tingle like when
I
you
did.
met her?
I was just fascinated with her. Like she's in her like late 70s, but she was like had leopard print with a bit of sequins, and I was like, oh my god, like I'm loving this.
I found
this is,
person.
and we just clicked straight away, and
that's so
we're
nice.
just hanging out when I was there, and it was really really nice to relate. Yeah.
What made you go back last year? Like, why is it?
Well, it was my first time going to Malta.
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess as like I get older, and hear stories from my mum about growing up in Malta, and I guess I wanted to go. Like I wanted to see where my parents were raised, and it's beautiful. Like it's so much history, and the water's lovely, and it was really nice to go back and see, because a lot of my family still have the village, the houses that my parents grew up in, and and just to kind of see that history of where they came from. I felt was important for me now than it was like in my 20s, where I was like, oh, I'm not really interested just yet. But now that I'm at my age, I feel I was ready to go and see it all. Yeah.
I've been back to where my family's originally from. I have Greek background, and where both sides of my family are from a tiny little island. And I went the first time when I was about 18, but it's incredible because I'm third generation Australian.
Wow.
But the connection back to that place was kind of chilling. Like it was just like, whoa, like I'm feeling something like I've never really, like this sixth sense of this place.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just one of those things that you've heard the stories so many times that to then be physically there is just, that's just a big emotional impact, or if there is some other divine force at play. But
absolutely, yeah.
It's special nonetheless, I think.
Yeah. And like seeing all like mum never had any like pictures of her growing up, or I never saw any pictures of my dad, so it was just nice to go to my aunties and uncles' houses and see pictures of them. And like I'm a spit image of my father, like I look exactly like my father, so it was kind of weird seeing these little things, and kind of putting the puzzle together, the pieces together. Yeah.
So your mum was a single mum?
Yeah.
So she was working a lot, I imagine?
Yeah, all the time. So it was like the four of us, and I guess I was always like creating my own kind of like
little world.
Yeah.
And so as a teenager, we were just talking about our love of print media.
Yeah.
How you and I both kind of like waited for that one magazine to come out. What other ways did you kind of express yourself as a teenager? How did you kind of evolve into this colourful being that you are now?
I guess just kind of, I was always like colouring my hair as a teenager.
Yeah.
Just always making things. Like I got my first sewing machine when I was 11.
Okay.
So I was always cutting things up. Like I was always buying jeans and like bleaching them and cutting them up and then restructuring them back together. And I guess it's just over a period, just kind of like wearing different things and like evolving. Like it never really changed, it just evolved kind of thing. So I never like had different eras where like I was more like, golf, or it was always channeling to this kind of bright wardrobe kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of as a child, like Supre used to be in the 80s and 90s, like larger women's wear and children's wear.
Yeah.
So we would always go and, buy like pieces of clothing and stuff like that. And I was always absorbed to the color and print.
Yeah.
So every time like we would buy something, like it was my special outfit and it always had to be hung in mum's wardrobe. Because I then had to have a dry cleaning bag over the top of it. Because I had to share a room with my brother and we were always like at each other, and he always knew like that meant a lot to me, those kind of pieces. So they always had to be hung in mum's wardrobe with a key.
I love that the Supre clothing was kept at the highest esteem.
But they were fun, like it was all like bright clothing for kids, like, that 80s kind of 90s style.
Bit of hyper colour in
there.
there.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff. And that was always my special outfit. And, like if I had a fight with my brother, he knew like he would either go hide it or do something with it.
Yeah.
So it had to be in mum's wardrobe so he wouldn't touch that piece.
Best protection.
Yeah.
And did you grow up in Sydney? Or?
I grew up in Sydney. I grew up in western suburbs.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. And you went to East Sydney Tech
Yes.
and did design. Was that just like, obviously your calling for fashion was there from the very early age, but did you just go straight there from school? Was it?
I did. Yeah. I finished school in year 10. Like I had the option to go to year 12, but I figured I wanted to do another alternative. So instead of going to year 12, so I finished school in year 10, and then I went to TAFE for a year to do a apparel manufacturing course.
Right.
So it was more the technical side of like pattern making and sewing and grading and all that kind of side. And then after I graduated from there, I went to do a colour kind of illustration course for a year.
Yeah.
And then applied for East Sydney and then got in when I was like 18. So our year was like full of babies fresh from school.
Yeah.
So majority of our year were like 18, and then there were a few like 20, 21-year-olds. But we all kind of really connected and related to each other.
Yeah. Any people that are still in the industry that?
Yeah, there's a few of my friends that have gone off and do different things. Like I've got a friend that's like does handmade tailoring, suiting.
Yeah.
Some have gone into accessory design, and then some just went completely opposite direction and not into fashion. So.
And then you started your label like shortly after that, is that right?
Straight away, basically. After we graduated, I was selected to do the student show for Fashion Week.
Okay.
So 4 students every year get selected to do the show. So I was selected for that, and I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? I didn't have much money and was waiting for, getting paid for youth allowance from Centrelink, and was like, I'm going to do it. So I was like, what fabric can I use? So I thought, jersey was a cheap fabric to use. So I bought all this jersey and sketched up all these designs and just started draping on the mannequin.
Yeah.
And then created this like small, I think I had 6 weeks to put this little 15-piece collection together.
Yeah.
So I just started draping and taking pictures and then showing all the teachers, like, this is kind of what I'm thinking of. And just basically went from there and just started like, after the show, I was approached by a few buyers and, did a small order for them. And then, just kept designing, went off and worked casual to support myself.
Yeah.
And then just from there, the last 17 years, it's just been like developing and building and hustling and
But I have styled a few of those student shows, so met a lot of beautiful emerging designers in the last few years who kind of, are starting off and have all the passion there. But keeping that momentum up is really tough, and that takes a certain confidence to go, no, I am actually really going to start my own label, not go work for a bigger organisation. Where did you have that confidence? Was it just blind faith, or were you just knew that you could do it, or was it?
I don't know. I kind of like, I always knew that I could do it, but I've always very determined.
Yeah.
I think, growing up with a single mum, like we were always taught that if you want something, you have to go get it. Nothing's going to be handed to you. So that was kind of, in all of us from a young age, that we were always working and making our own pocket money and, casually working. And I guess that kind of drive pushed through and developed from there in terms of like, there are going to be days and times where, you're going down the roller coaster many times, but then it's like, you've got to pick yourself back up and keep moving forward. Like that's just it at the end of the day. Like I always say, tomorrow is another day. Let's keep doing this and just building your confidence as well and what you want.
Did you get? Was there any point where you felt like, there was a big break that really helped you along? And
I guess getting more recognition within like the local market and a bit overseas as well, and getting the support from them and also the boutiques. Back in the early 2000, like mid-early 2000, like, being stocked in a boutique was amazing and doing trunk shows and, it was all, presenting all that collateral.
In the early 2000s in Sydney, at least, the boutiques, there weren't a lot of them with Australian designers.
Not many, no. So,
it's
there were
kind of not that prevalent in terms of the general market, but even then it would have been like even more challenging, especially as a young designer.
I'm quite lucky because I got noticed by Belinda Sieper, who ran all the Belinda boutiques and the corner shop. I managed to get an appointment with her with my first collection. My second collection. I managed to get an appointment with her and I went to go see her, and she kind of took me under her wing when I first started and mentored me for a year.
Okay.
Was always, I would meet with her like every couple of weeks and she would like look at my designs and, give me feedback, but then she'd put me in her corner shop stores.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
And she gave me like a little space above the corner shop. She had like a little...
Up here in Paddington?
Just upstairs. So she let me kind of work up there for a while, and when it came to Fashion Week, we did a little guerrilla show, where she organised all the models. Valence did the hair and makeup and shoes, and like was really supportive through that period to really, have the confidence in myself to keep moving forward. And the one advice that she always gave me, which I still look at now, is like always be known for doing one thing really good within the industry.
Yeah.
And then when you've like nailed it, then go on to do other things.
Yeah.
So I kind of, started off doing a lot of draping in the early days. And then
you kind of become known for
for
that.
like the draping, and I didn't actually know any technique through school. I was always doing like a lot of tailoring and and then when I finished school, that's when I just started experimenting and realized I had a flair and was really good at doing this. So I was like, I kept doing this, and then I guess as I like slowly progress and time changes, I wanted to like look at different fabrications and silhouettes, more tailoring and like a bit of silks and stuff like that. So,
So one of the things that you're known for in terms of your designs is that you have a very considerate hand on a woman's body shape. Do you think that that's got any relationship to the women in your life, or is it by chance because you started working with jersey and draping and that just lent itself to having to be really considerate of the female form? Or
I guess it probably relates back to a lot to family. Like I was always making dresses for my older sisters when I was younger, and just a lot of friends as well. So I kind of was always around that.
Yeah.
It's like I was also always realistic about when designing and making things that, you know, a body needs a bit of ease, a bit of movement to feel comfy and to fit right. So I guess it's like been a lot of trial and error over the years of like, you know, getting friends to try stuff on and getting their feedback, and but just also understanding, that it's you know, you want everyone to relate to it kind of thing. So
And in terms of your profiling your designs, again, another thing is that you kind of exercise a level of restraint in terms of colour and pattern. How does that reconcile with how you dress?
I don't know. I never used to think of it up until like a couple of years ago, like when I would, you know, have a buyer's appointment and like buyers would come through and I'd be like the collection would be like really muted in colour palette, and then there's this big bright person on the end of the rack selling the collection going, oh my God, going like, who, like this is not your collection, like how is it relating? I guess I always thought like it didn't, I don't know, kind of always felt like it never needed to puzzle together in terms of like you find like a lot of designers are like in line with how their brand is, but I always kind of felt like with my personal wardrobe, just kind of putting things together and not thinking about it, I kind of looked at like, I didn't really feel like I needed to like synchronize back then and like a flow of like, oh, we can tell that you designed this collection. It was more about the silhouette and the creation within the body and the colours. That makes sense. So but as I progressed with the collections, like a lot of people were like, where is you in your collection? And I want to see more of your kind of personal persona within the collection. And probably in the last 5 years, 6 years, I've kind of slowly introduced more of my colour palette, more of my print, and
a few more polka dots.
Yeah, more polka dot, bit of leopard print, and people were getting excited by it. Like you know, the press were and buyers were like, "Oh my God, like this is so you." And I guess I kind of like it felt like a click kind of thing to like, oh, okay, like this is what you know my buyers are wanting from me, like you know. And I guess over time it's important. Like I'm enjoying it more by making it more about putting myself in there. Like
I think also like, you know, going back to what we're talking about with print media and social media and how media is changing, I think there's an expectation that like so much more of yourself has to come into everything that you do. So I guess like it was okay before potentially for you to have that level of separation, but you are as much part of the brand as your clothes are.
Absolutely.
And so there's kind of like a pull for you to bring
Yeah.
that in more.
And I'm really enjoying it. Like working with a creative team helps a lot as well.
Have you got a lot of people working with you?
I do. I mean, I'm like in terms of the creative teams, like working with stylists and photographers and stuff like that. Like, I'm very lucky over the course of my career that I've been blessed to work with a lot of really talented people that believe in me and my product. And I guess
and they do. You've been very like I've been in the industry for 10 years, but you've been very celebrated through that time.
Yeah, very lucky. I mean, I'm lucky, and they've turned into like really amazing friendships as well beyond like our working relationship.
Yeah,
just for that connection. But it's nice to like have people around you that believe in you and believe in what you do. I think that's really important as any creative to like be surrounded by people that are going to have your back. And like they always say, like when people can suggest things, but you have to experience it and understand it before you do it, if that makes sense. Like oh, you should do this and you should do that, and like, but if you feel like it doesn't resonate with you, then you got to wait till it does, and then you do it. Because then if you do it because other people are telling you, like,
it feels too contrived.
And then you're not doing it right, or it's not kind of hitting the right kind of stakes or where you want it to go. But then once you see it and recognize it, then I find like it works better.
Yeah. So life's kind of thrown a few challenges your way recently.
Yeah.
How has that impacted you creatively?
It's changed a lot. I was like, when I was kind of, going through that period, I was told by a friend who experienced something similar to that a year before, that 80% of it is your mind.
Yeah.
So I was really making sure my mind was at a good place. In terms of being around great family and friends, but also I was still wanting to create things to keep my mind at peace, and it's changed a lot. Like it's made me put a lot of things in perspective of just really enjoying it, enjoying what I want to do, and like life is like way more like it's important to like enjoy who you are and what you do, and I guess I always had that, but now I feel like it's 100 times more. Where I'm really loving what I'm doing, and going through that period you kind of work out what you want to do and what you don't, and you kind of let go of the things that.
So what are some of the things you've let go of that you feel like just aren't priorities?
Working till like 2 a.m. in the morning. I was kind of doing that for a while and thinking that was like normal, but like it's not. And like, socializing more with friends and just like I always was always working and trying to get like jam a lot in, but now it's like it's okay if something doesn't get done. I'm not going to stress about it. It'll get done another time, and just really space stuff out. And
what are you holding on to? It's actually, I've just finished a series through COVID, and obviously that's a time for people to reflect on their priorities as well. And one of the questions I've been asking is, what are the things you've been holding on to as important to you?
I guess just things that are important to me. It's just like believing in who you are and what you do. Enjoy it. Like, just don't stress about things. Just enjoy the process and
being in the moment.
Yeah, being in the moment, and things happen for a reason. Like, like if something is not happening now, not to say that it won't happen later. But yeah, I just want to enjoy what I do, and I want to surround myself with being creative and doing creative things, and
And have you kind of found some inspiration for your collections through this time, or moving forward, like your future collections, what do they kind of hold?
Well, during COVID, I decided that I wanted to kind of pull things apart a little bit and work on a more pre-order kind of direction with my brand. Because I was constantly doing like collection after collection, and I found that I wasn't really getting to enjoy the end result, because it was like too fast and then hand it over and then boom, you're on to the next thing. So I feel moving forward I want to kind of make it a pre-order kind of collection, and do little small capsules. So I'm actually enjoying and taking my time with them. But still doing little shoots and working with creative team, but just kind of spread it out a bit more.
So one of the questions I ask is, when you're 70 years old, do you imagine yourself still in the same kind of clothes, like in the bright, playful?
So. Yeah, I feel like I mean, my wardrobe is just full of color and print, and I don't think about it when I'm putting something on. I just put it on.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think will be with me for life. So, as long as I'm able to dress up, but it's purely for me. Like, I get a lot of energy and love when I'm dressed up, and I've got nail polish on, or my hair's colored, or I've got my bright outfit on. Like, I feel a lot of energy and love for myself.
What's the next hair color? Because there's been many iterations of it.
Oh, I love the fluoro yellow. Like, it's I'm gonna stay with this for a while.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe another fluoro, like a fluoro pink, or.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe next year. But I'm happy with this color. Yeah.
Okay. Gary, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome.
And sharing your style story. It's been lovely to finally meet you after all these years.
Thank you so much.
That's my pleasure.
As a child with a hearing impairment, Gary learnt to use his eyes as a vehicle to taste the world around him. And he had a feast, layering himself with colour, print and pattern. It's this childlike wonderment of the world that defines Gary's forever young style. But beneath the polka dots and candy colours lies a hard-working, humble man that pays respect to his mother and sisters by creating designs that offer ease and elegance to the female form. Despite recent health battles, Gary's outlook remains sunny, and he continues to cast colour and joy on the world around him.